Tesla is working on another vehicle, one that is smaller and more importantly cheaper than the Model 3 that we have right now. There have been sort of a flurry of new rumors and information and headlines about the highly anticipated $25,000 Model 2. This is basically a step down from the 3 and is a new compact hatchback that Tesla could be producing soon. That would be the long-awaited kind of revolutionary shakeup for the entire auto industry. It'd be a super compelling $25,000 fully electric vehicle with all the Tesla tech inside that could be the best car, one of the best cars on the road. But there are a lot of questions. What are the details of this car? What is going to be the real price? When is it going to go into production? What's it going to have? What's it not going to have? And where can you actually buy it? A lot of different questions to answer, and I'm going to attempt to answer them in this video, because in this one, I'm talking all about the $25,000 Tesla Model 2 and absolutely everything we currently know about this car right now. Let me put your questions to rest and give you the answers. So just the story of the Model 2 is very interesting in and of itself because it kind of just shows how quickly Tesla is accelerating in regards to its master plan. You might remember a few years ago, Elon talked about the Tesla master plan. It kind of started with the super expensive fully electric EV that would kind of pave the way for the more affordable but still luxurious EV that was like the original Roadster going to the Model S. Then you talk about having a higher end luxury car that paves the way for a more affordable electric vehicle that was mass market. That was the Model 3. And then all these other things kind of in between, all kind of trying to accelerate the push to green energy and electric cars, all different vehicles that all are trying to fit the different segments of cars that Tesla is trying to enter. So you have the luxury SUV, the truck market, you have the sedan, you have more the compact like the 3, you have the high end with the Roadster, and now something even cheaper, something much more attainable to many people around the world, something more affordable, and something that gives you the experience of a Tesla and an EV and a little bit of that Tesla magic without having to drop $37,000 or $36,990 right now for the cheapest standard range plus. So if you want to save some money, what can you look for? Well, that's where the Model 2 comes in. That's supposed to be the answer to this all. So it seems like kind of the mission for the Model 2 is sort of threefold. One is to make a fully autonomous vehicle that can drive itself. One is to make an affordable $25,000-ish electric vehicle that is available to the mass market and more attainable than the Model 3 we have right now, and also to build a car specifically kind of geared towards the Chinese market. This is one of the biggest EV markets around the world. There's a lot of money at play, and it makes sense that Tesla has invested a lot into the infrastructure in China. They've done a lot to build Model 3s there as well for the Chinese market, so it makes sense that they're trying to kind of double down their efforts a little bit more in building a car made specifically for this market. And from what we're hearing kind of from the rumor mill inside of Tesla, it seems like this car is geared first and foremost, like I said, to the Chinese market. So it's being developed with that market in mind. It's rumored to be built in Shanghai at a new Tesla facility there, Giga Shanghai. So it'll be built crazy efficiently and then sold in that country. But then the Tesla will take kind of that car, we don't know if it's the specific model or a variant of it, and then we'll sell it internationally and kind of worldwide. So that same car that you have in China should make its way to roads in Europe, and then of course in the United States and other territories and countries as well. So we know it's probably being built in China first. It's going to be sold internationally. Okay, what does this car actually look like? From what we've heard so far, it's a hatchback. It's kind of a smaller Model 3. What can we expect? And we really don't have a ton to work with here. This is the only current render we have of the current Model 2 right now. And it basically looks like it takes some of the DNA from the Model 3, but pares it down a bit. It could possibly be a two-door car with a hatchback and keeps the same kind of Tesla design aesthetic, but pares it down a bit to something a little bit more smaller and a little bit more affordable. Another big question besides the looks is what is going to be inside? In order to drive costs down, what is Tesla going to do, or I guess more importantly, what are we not going to get in the Model 2 that you'd get in the Model 3? And I think that if we look back at the history of the Model 3 and specifically the Standard Range and Standard Range Plus, we can learn a lot of information. So if we look at the Standard Range Plus and we take it down a notch, we know first and foremost that Tesla is probably probably going to not include things like floor mats. Maybe you're not going to have fog lamps. Maybe you don't have any rear heated seats. Those are things we do not have in the Standard Range Plus, so I'm going to bet that they're not going to be in the Model 2 either. We also could take a look at the history of the Standard Range. Specifically, that model was not supposed to have a glass sunroof. It was supposed to have cloth seats. It was supposed to have manually adjusted seats. Those could all be things that Tesla could do to keep costs down and would be staples of a Model 2. Maybe you could kind of buy upgrades. Maybe you could unlock things through software updates, or maybe you could have an option that would give you leather seats or it'd give you a glass sunroof. But just kind of looking at Tesla's history, those are moves they could make to definitely reduce the cost of this car, or at least specifically kind of the base $25,000 model. We also could see things like a more limited sound system. Maybe the screen is smaller because we have a 17-inch screen in the S and the X. We have a 15-inch in the 3 and the Y. I'm curious maybe if this car, because the whole thing's physically smaller, maybe it'll be a 13 or 12-inch display. That could be something as well. I'd expect the software to be the same. Obviously, you'd have all the nice Tesla goodies. You'd get over-the-air software updates. I'm expecting you're probably going to get the same exact experience, all very premium, but maybe at a little bit of a smaller scale. I'm also curious to see how they handle things like autopilot. That used to be an a la carte option for a while. I'm curious if they would bring that back to the Model 2 in order to bring that car down to that price, though it would have all the hardware capable of making it a fully autonomous car. And maybe you could even option it with full self-driving. I wonder if, again, in order to keep that price down, that they would actually not have that as a standard feature. Maybe you'd have traffic-aware cruise control as kind of the base, but there wouldn't be any autopilot to speak of unless you were to pay for that upgrade. Again, just in an effort to keep that cost as low as possible. The biggest things, though, are going to be range. Tesla says the reason they're going to be able to make this car as cheap as possible is, I think, one, it's going to be physically smaller, but also because they're improving their battery technology so fast, and those batteries are getting more efficient, they're getting cheaper to build, and I'm guessing this car would not have crazy range. We don't think we know any specifics, but I would guess, I mean, the Standard Range Plus was 240 when I got mine. I don't think the standard range was around 220, 230. So I would say at least 200 miles of range, but maybe somewhere between 220 and 250 would be acceptable. Actually, I think it would be a pretty good amount of range, but don't expect anything crazy. No long range version, at least for the base end, for this $25,000 car. And again, just to kind of reiterate this, Tesla and specifically Elon says this will be a car built with autonomy in mind. So I'm going to expect it to have all the same hardware that you'd find on the S, the X, the 3, the Y, and Cybertruck and Roadster and Semi for autopilot and for self-driving. I'm sure all the cameras will be there. You'll probably have the interior cameras as well. I'm curious if this will be kind of positioned in a way that it could be a part of the robotaxi fleet. We know that Tesla has a bunch of leased Model 3s they say they're going to put into a fleet of robotaxis. I'm curious if this could be another addition to that big fleet as well, if users could be able to kind of rent their car out when they're not using it. I'm not sure. The other question too, many are asking, is what kind of steering wheel will this have? Will it adopt the yoke steering wheel? Will it have a traditional wheel? Will it have like a crazy retractable wheel, since it's built with autonomy in mind, that if you were in fully autonomous mode, you could like tuck the steering wheel down and away and just sit back and let the car drive? Could it have new sensors to detect if you're looking at the road and make sure that everything is safe as possible? I'm not sure. Those are a lot of excellent questions that time will tell and give us answers to, but definitely I'm really curious to see what new technologies this car could have and how Tesla is going to position this as a fully autonomous car, and if it could help benefit their fleet of robotaxis in the year 2023 when this is supposed to launch. And on that note, yes, if you're wondering when this car is supposed to launch, we're hearing rumors that it could be in the next 2 to 3 years. I think the timeline is 2023, though we've heard rumors it could be as soon as next year. We know it is an active development at a Tesla facility in China. We know that it is being worked on, and it's not just a concept. They're actually doing some work on it, but we don't know how fast they're going to make that move from concept to reality and bring it out from production and actually start selling it. We've seen Tesla do things pretty fast, but again, they also work on their own timetable, and I'm not sure when exactly we could see this. We still don't know things like colors and wheel options and trims and all that stuff. I'm curious to see if they would do like a standard range version that's the cheapest, and if we'd see other models as well and paid upgrades. We're just not sure about that. And the other big question is the price in relation to incentives. So we know right now, I mean, if you go to the Tesla website, they'll give you a price that they show is the base price, but that's with incentives built in on gas savings and federal incentives. So I'm curious to see if they're going to base that $25,000 price off of incentives from different governments around the world, or if the car really will be $25,000 and you could add a tax credit onto that. So in the US, if you had a $25,000 car and you had a $7,000 federal tax credit, could you get a car for around $18-ish thousand before taxes and fees? I'm not sure, though I know many people would really be happy to buy it, and it would be a very compelling option. And I guess that kind of leads to everything we currently know. Hatchback, built with autonomy in mind, made for the Chinese market, should be kind of sold international. And I'm super excited to see what this Model 2 will offer, and more specifically, how it is going to change the Model 3 in the process. And I'm curious, what do you guys think about this rumored Model 2? What would you have to have in this car? What would you have to see in order to make it a compelling option for you? Do you think the price is low enough to make it a mass market EV that can be adopted by everybody? Or do you think it's still too much of a niche thing and the price isn't the issue, it's the charging is the issue? I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What do you think this car has to have, and what do you think it needs to have in it in order to make it a success? I'm super curious to see what happens, and hopefully over the next year or two or three, we see this car finally start to hit the road. Anyways, I'm curious, let me know your thoughts down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I'll see ya in the next one.